So the Raza Library, Rampur, has a treasure trove of Persian manuscript cookbooks, which were collected by the Nawabs of Rampur, and the earliest one was collected in 1816. It was probably commissioned by the Nawab, written by, or the patron of the manuscript was Muhammad Shah Khan of Nankar. Now, Nankar is a small tehsil near Rampur. So it was, of course, he was probably a nobleman. Now, this is something that there are about 9 or 10 such Persian manuscripts belonging to the 19th century. A number of them have the name of the patron, probably a local nobleman. So the Katib was the scribe or who actually wrote down the manuscript, and the Musannif is the author. And sometimes the authorship is given to, let us say, the patron who's actually not the author. So we have a manuscript over here. I have one over here, which is where the Musannif or the author is supposed to be the Nawab Kalbe Ali Khan, who was here who ruled from 1865 to 1887. So this manuscript is really unique in a number of ways. Since they were written in Persian, which was not the normal language of the people of Rampur, so they were probably a sort of a frame of reference or a sort of a repertoire of the kind of dishes that were being prepared, or let us say an aspirational kind of a document collected by the Nawabs of Rampur, who wanted to have this sheen of elegance and culture, because they were the Rohilla Pathans, and they when they came to India, they wanted to amalgamate the cuisines, they wanted to innovate. So they were gastronomes, let's say, or connoisseurs, and that kind of a culture was going down to the other elites and the noblemen, and they also wanted to project themselves as patrons of or gastronomes. So here we have a manuscript wherein the author is supposed to be Nawab Kalbe Ali Khan. And so this is a very interesting manuscript in a number of ways. It is called Nuskha Haitam, and it has a very interesting thing that most of it doesn't have a very wide number of recipes or repertoire, but it has certain recipes which were probably being cooked in the time of Nawab Kalbe Ali Khan. Why I say they were probably being cooked? Because some of them are attributed to the Khansamas. And this is the only manuscript which I found where the Khansamas are mentioned. Like we have, it begins with Nuskha Halwa Sohan Papdi, and which is Inayat Ali Khan, son of Kallu Khan. So we have some three, in fact, Khansamas who are mentioned. One is Inayat Ali Khan, then the Kallu Khan, and Hussaini. So who were very important Khansamas. So whoever the writer was, or maybe it was of course under the patronage of Nawab Kalbe Ali Khan. He wanted to give importance to the Khansamas and name them in this. Another important thing is the other manuscripts have a lot of, let us say, categories. Like you have a number of pulaus, like 20, 30, 50 kinds of pulaus, then kormas, then kebabs, then halwas, etc. This has just about 42 recipes and 44 recipes. And the interesting thing is that it also has achar and chutney. So when I started the research, the main issue was, of course, to translate these recipes from Persian into Urdu and English. So I started taking Persian lessons, of course, because I didn't know Persian. I wasn't really a researcher, but really all this intrigued me so much. I translated these recipes, but the issue was, of course, the measurements, which were in dam, tola, ratti, the ancient measurements. More than that, when one could really, kind of translate it into modern measurements, but there were some notations also, like dots and dashes and slashes, which were very, very difficult to understand and decipher. Well, we did the best we could. Once we got this project of Forgotten Foods together, our main aim was to make these forgotten recipes and forgotten foods once again a part of our foods or the cuisine of Rampur, and train the chefs in this cuisine of Rampur, the forgotten cuisine of Rampur. The masalas are very basic, something that we have in an Indian, normally have in an Indian kitchen. There were no exotic masalas, very basic masalas. So, for instance, we have this nuskha kundan khalia. This is one thing that we tried it out. It has, and kundan khalia is something that I had heard a lot about in the oral history from my family members and my husband's family members, that there was a kundan khalia, and it was called kundan khalia because it had the glitter of gold. It had light golden curry. It didn't have too many masalas, but it was supposed to be a delicacy, and some women were famous for making, and maybe probably Khansamas are also famous for making lovely kundan khalia. And we tried out this. It's a chicken curry, very light, and it has saffron, very light masalas, and it turned out to be really delicious. This is Khwane-Nemat. Khwane-Nemat is something that really intrigued us because it had a number of recipes in a sort of a contents properly laid out, and a number of recipes were there, more than 200 styles of different kaliyas and kormas and kebabs, etc. A number of these had the same name as what we find in Nuskha Shah Jahani, which were probably named after some noblemen like Khichdi Daud Khani, Pulao Shah Jahani. So obviously they dated from the Mughal times. It was actually written by Nawab Qasim Ali Khan. So Nawab Qasim Ali Khan was a cousin of Nawab Kalbe Ali Khan. So we don't have the date for this, but this should be again dated to around 1860s, let us say. And so we translated it and we tried out some of these recipes. You can't really try out. There were so many different types of recipes over here that we did try out some of these recipes with our project chef Surur Khansama, and they turned out to be quite well. And let's see, we hope to put it all together in a cookbook. Like you have Mutanjan Pulao over here, which is something that we don't eat in Rampur anymore. But yes, in Lucknow, definitely. So there you see a lot of amalgamation from Awadhi as well as Mughal cuisines which came to Rampur. Some of these documents I have realized were copies which were anonymous, and they were probably, the Nawabs asked the scribes to copy down some older Mughal documents, and then they were preserved in the library. There were printed books also in 1870s. There were a number of cookbooks that were printed. Like this cookbook belonged to 1873. What happened was when I looked through these printed cookbooks of Awadh and Mughal cuisines, there was a lot of overlapping, like I said, of the different recipes. And in a way, they helped me to decipher some of the very cryptic instructions that were there in these manuscripts, because most of these manuscripts have presupposed that we would know the culinary techniques, which we actually don't know anymore. For example, they say that when the shorba, remove the yakhni from the shorba. So really, what is the yakhni and what is the shorba? Or some of the terms like you have cocoa. So what is cocoa? For that, I had to really, it's of course not the modern cocoa because that wasn't there at that time. So for that, I had to go and look up the cuisines of Central Asia, Persian cuisines, and I once again saw a lot of overlapping in the recipes. Maybe the same names, let us say, For example, the Kabuli pulao was there. The Kabuli pulao was here also, but a lot of difference in the methods of preparation. So, what exactly was Pathan cuisine? What came down from Afghanistan? Of course, went through this whole process of amalgamation and change as the Pathan settled down the north of India, and the Nawabs wanted to change the cuisine in different ways. They wanted to have more elegant and more opulent kind of a cuisine. As the dresses also changed after the 1820s, the Nawab were under the influence of the Awadh Nawabs, because they were initially also a vassal state of Awadh, and they were deeply influenced by Awadh culture. So they adapted, and I feel that the Rampur cuisine has more of a leaning towards the Awadhi cuisine, but it retained the kind of the strong khada masala flavor, or the strong meat flavor, less of spice, more of a meaty flavor. They retained those characteristics. This printed book, Haft Khan Shaukat, it's called, is also interesting because it has a number of Anglo, or you can say British and continental recipes also, because these recipes were, of course, also becoming a part of the cuisines very slowly but steadily. And towards the beginning of the 20th century, in Rampur, we had the Angrezi or the British kitchens in the Nawab's with the Nawab's palace. Since the let us say that since the time of Kalbe Ali Khan, there was a separate budget for the Angrezi cuisine, because they were entertaining the Britishers, and so they needed to know a lot about the British cuisine, or to cook the British cuisine, or possibly to make the Khansama learn the British cuisine. And this tradition just continued. After some time, we see in the time of the last two Nawab Hamid Ali Khan, Nawab Raza Ali Khan, it became a regular fare, a part of the dining table. The Angrezi Khana became a part of the dining table in a very strong way. An interesting thing about this particular printed cookbook is that it also advises the noblemen how to lay out the dinner and how to entertain the guests. So what we could understand from these books was that the person whom they are addressed to is the elite connoisseur or the nobleman, rather than the housewives, and rather than the khansamas. So the khansamas were probably being instructed by the noblemen, because having a good table, having a good dastarkhan spoke about volumes about the status of the elites of that time. So this is another manuscript, Musaddas-e Tehniyat-e Jashn-e-Benazir. Jashn-e-Benazir was a jashan that started during the time of Nawab Kalbe Ali Khan, and it was held at the Benazir Palace. They have these beautiful watercolors dating to probably 1860s, 70s, during the time of Nawab Kalbe Ali Khan, which has the pictures of the palace and the scenes from the fair, how the people, and it has these couplets in Rekhti, the Rekhti Goi, the kind of an informal women style of writing, which they just depict the whole scene of the fair, which was a very huge fair and had people from all over the country, the noblemen from all over the country. There were dancers, there were tawaifs who were singing. And the interesting thing is that it is also looking at the ordinary people and how they participated in the fest. For our study in this Jashn-e-Benazir, we can also see there are these British soldiers, there are dances going on, there are these people who are also selling different things, like you have murmure ki tikya and kebab that is mentioned over here. Murmure ki tikya tal rahi hai, and they have these kebabs that are being served. They also have a theme that people are having a theme. Very interesting, interesting line is this. हमको यकीन है जो अफीम नहीं खाएगा वो जन्नत में नहीं जाएगा. I love this line. So interesting. और अफ्यून और मिठाई जो शख्स खाएगा हमको यकीन है वो नहीं जन्नत में जाएगा. Story is so interesting the way they show the serving. Also interesting is the mention of halwa sohan and halwa sohan jauzi and how it is being served over there and prepared over there by the local halwai. And there is kheer. The kheer is supposed to be as white as burraq, and it's served in bowls, and it's supposed to be as white as burraq. That is the celestial horse, the white horse.